everybody. Welcome to another episode of Inside Multifamily Access Control. Colin Dupree here, joined today, as always, with Leo Des. Lee, how you doing?
Good morning. Thank you, Colin. Doing great. Thanks.
Also joining us today is Javier Roquero. So super excited to have Javier join us. Javier, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Good morning to all.
So we're here to talk another episode on sustainability and focus on some of the stuff that we're doing at Salto. So I'm obviously really excited about that. So before we get started, Javier, why don't you just do a quick introduction for our audience today?
Yeah, sure. My name is Javier Roquero. I'm a Spanish citizen based in Spain. And I am one of the several co-founders that we created this company back in August 2000. So it's just about a couple of months since we are now 20 years old. And this is Salto Systems, is a Spanish company with a global presence through 25 subsidiaries. And I'm one of the co-founders of the company, and currently I'm also the CEO of the company.
Wow. Well, thank you. And it's a privilege to have you join us, knowing how busy you are, but then also just as someone that's been in the business for what's pretty much been close to the amount of time that you've all been in business. It's been wonderful to watch sort of the growth of the organization and the impact that you've had, whether it's the designs, the culture that you've created, and sort of the methodical approach that you've taken to the market. So I really appreciate what you've done in the company. So congratulations to you, and thank you for taking the time.
Thanks, Lee.
Absolutely. So why don't we kick it off with, if you would, you mentioned a little bit about the company, but I always like to hear it from sort of the CEO's view. Sort of, if you just give a quick little overview of the organization itself, and then if you want to follow up with that is, as you at the tail end of telling us a little bit about the company, what does sustainability mean to the company, and then also what does it personally mean to you? If you could weave that in, that would be great.
Okay, sure. Then Salto is today is a company which, as I said before, is we are based in Spain. Here is where we have our manufacturing plant, our only manufacturing plant, from where we manufacture and assemble the products which we ship globally. This is a 20 years old company now, and employing 1,200 people. Following a very recent corporate development and an acquisition we made just 4 weeks ago, an Austrian company called Gartner, which has given us access to new products, to new technologies, and also to new verticals and geographical markets. So we are now a company of about 300 million US turnover with one manufacturing plant, and presents practically in every country in the world. The group is formed by 30 subsidiaries, 30 companies, from where we serve our customers globally. The company is specialized on electronic locking, access control and electronic locking. And the purpose of the company when we created it back in 2000 was to lead the transition from mechanical keys to electronic locking. The founders of the company, we all come from a hardware and a locksmith origin. And that's when back in 2000, you may remember, Lee, that was basically the electronic locking was basically a hotel, a hospitality business. So when we had this idea, our aim, the target was to take the electronic lock to not so much protected environments. We all know an electronic lock in a hospitality is somehow what we call a protected environment, with a very few openings per day, protected in terms of the lock is in a corridor, there is a maintenance, no outdoor or practically no outdoor applications. So what we wanted is to develop a product, to take the product out from the hospitality, from these protected environments, and take it to any kind of building. And that's what we've done these last 20 years. And now we're with the addition of Gardner, the Salto group is in a level of installing close to 1 million locks per year. That's the reality of our current business today.
Wow, it's impressive. Especially the thing that really pointed out to me was that in 20 years, you've made over one, you've grown into the business. You're up to 30, you said, in 20 years. So that's very impressive. So as the organization looks at sustainability as a sort of a culture plus practice, I mean, how do you view it? And then how does the organization start to bring sustainability into how it works?
Okay, the concept first, sustainability. We see sustainability as an equilibrium from what the ability of the company, of course, to exist, but not only to exist, but to coexist. So that's the concept of equilibrium, and the equilibrium is from sustainable in the long term with an equilibrium, reaching an equilibrium of what we take and what we give or provide. So, and what do we take? What's the company taking? Of course, we take from natural resources, from all kind of components that we use. It's something that we are taking from let's say from the environment, from the planet. We take the hard work of our employees. We take all types of resources that we use in our daily activity. And what we try is to find an equilibrium and to compensate everything we take with what we give, what we provide. And what do we provide in compensation to the hard work of our employees and the resources that we use? What we give is, of course, a good quality, the more eco-friendly that we can product, and we are working on that direction. But we try to compensate what we take or what we get. We try to compensate it also perhaps with what we give to our local community, what we give to our employees apart from the salary. We try to compensate what they provide us with not only the salary, which of course is a given, but we also try to compensate and to give back through social benefits, training in different disciplines and areas. So for us, sustainability is reaching the equilibrium from what we take and what we provide or give back.
Yeah, I like that idea that it's a give and take, and there's sort of a balance that you're trying to create versus
Correct.
just being somewhat one week. So that's it's an interesting way to view it. I have not thought of it that way, but that makes a lot of sense on that side. I guess when you think about it, how do you? Well, actually, before I jump into that one, what do you think as an industry as a whole, access control, smart locks, and the rest? Where is our place when it comes to sustainability and furthering it, but then also just an eco side? Because it's a relatively, you have to really think about it. We're not the HVAC side where there's sort of a direct, like you can point to it really easily, or on lighting, it's sort of like the lights on, the electricity is clearly being used. When it's off, no electricity is being used, or the water, right? When you turn the faucet on, like those things all have a very specific example that you can point to, where with our industry, it's a little bit hard, right? Because you have a lock and it's supposed to keep bad people out and let the good people in type thing. And we don't hear a lot of conversations around sustainability. So I think we, as an industry, are very young, if you would, in the conversation. But, what role do you see that we play in this and that while you're doing it? It's probably some examples, if you would, of how our industry can do it beyond, the equilibrium, like you said. What are some like real examples that you and how you think about it?
Usually, rather than focusing on trying to understand or to elaborate what an electronic lock can add to the party here, we are more focused on our the supply chain and the manufacturing and the disposal, to all which takes is in relation with the life and the life cycle of our products. We could elaborate a lot on what is exactly what the electronic locking can add to the party, but rather than doing that, we have preferred concentrate our efforts on all the supply chain, manufacturing, and use and disposal of the product. So we concentrate on efforts. These recent news about Salto being carbon neutral, which we can elaborate more if you want. We are elaborating for our EDPs. I guess you are familiar with the environmental product declarations, electricity, initiatives, easy life activities which can improve I would say very easy thing, very day-to-day activities, such as, I don't know, we are, for example, one of the objectives for 2021 is substituting all our installation guides by QR codes. So something which is, you would say, how basic or how, but that in a company like ours with thousands of different references and installation guides in different countries, Mortis locks installation guides in every area of the world. We are a global company. We're selling in the whole world. So you don't know how many installation guides we can have in different for the different standards of.
Some people think you can't have too many.
Well, we do. So doing the transition from printed installation guides to everything in QR codes is a huge project. So rather than what is the role of electronic locking in sustainability, we prefer to say, hey, what 5-6 real things can we do next year in order to be coherent with our sustainability efforts? So we don't dedicate our time to philosophical, let's say, discussions, but we say, hey, guys, what 5 things can we do and to be achieved in 1 year, in the next 12 months? And then initiatives like this come up.
No, I like that. I mean, it makes it very much one of those, if you focus on it, you make it tangible and easy for people to digest. It gives a clear sort of vision and goal of where people can achieve, and you start to see. And you're right. I mean, there's sort of a desire to get right into the technical side of, like, a door lock does this, where you're talking about it's a lot of times it's the supply chain, like you said, and way down the pipe that people don't necessarily get a good view of what it means or the impacts that it's having on that side. On that though, question for you, and maybe your answer is on the because you've broken it down to the 5 things, but we've seen in other industries, they call it greenwashing, if you would, right? Where there's a lot of conversation about sustainability, but not as much action into it. So your thoughts as a leader of a very well-known organization within our industry that is leading efforts in this is sort of like, how do we move it from talk to actual teeth in the programs to where?
Absolutely, that's exactly the point. That's exactly, instead of let's say dedicating our time to discussions, we are a very pragmatic and very practical company in everything we do. So we're within our industry, we are one of the smallest one, and then we have to be very pragmatic and practical and fast in moving. So our plans in sustainability are very action oriented. So we all have, in every department in the company, there are 2-3 within the yearly objectives. There is also, what can you do from your department, whether it is human resources or finance or, of course, quality or IT, cybersecurity, wherever you work in the company as a team, in your area within the company, what can you do? Tell me a couple of things you can do next year in order to be coherent, in order to support the sustainability efforts of the company. And that's how we get crazy initiatives, such as, I don't know, another initiative for this 2021 is the car sharing. close to 50% of the carbon dioxide emission that we create, that we do from the factory here. 50% of it comes from the moves of all our employees, our 350 employees here, based here, moving from home to the factory and back. So how can we? It's because it's not only the fact that we have compensated our carbon footprint, but it's the game is calculating, then doing efforts to reduce that, and then compensate what is left. But it's not just a matter of compensating. 50% of the effort has to be reduced, and then the rest will be compensated. So one of the initiatives that was there, given that we share these numbers, we share the calculation of our carbon footprint effect of the company, and then when people realize that, okay, so 50% of our emissions of our carbon footprint from the factory is what we create when going from home to the factory and back. Yes. So now there is a nice initiative of a working group formed by employees from every department, and there is this car sharing program which is going to be launched next year. So instead of having 350 people coming, because we are not in an urban area, we are in a sort of a rural area, if you want. I have the mountains in front of me now. So instead of everyone taking his own car to come here, given that we don't have such a good transport facilities, which we are also working on that aspect. Instead of that, we are going to have a program for car sharing, etc. So all employees through an app will be able to share their car instead. And so we hope, I don't know, we might reduce the emissions of that source to half. Okay, then that's our effort. And then having every employee in the company being aware of the efforts and sharing the efforts, that's the way you do. The whole company globally works to that end. Instead of having one department, marketing, quality, whatever, being the owner of the sustainability efforts, what we try is that every employee gets aware that that's also his own duty, and he can collaborate and help us on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It reminds me of because if you think about it, right, like between the diversity and inclusion parts, like you've got COVID and health concerns now on top of everything else that's going on, and then sustainability. For some people, it can sometimes, if you look at each one of them isolated, it can become overwhelming, and then there's probably a desire that's like, okay, now your group's responsible for that. But like you said, it's throughout. It's this idea around corporate. Talked to a gentleman from Johnson Controls around corporate citizenship, and he talked about this idea that it's sort of part of the ethos of the organizations, the culture, the industry as a whole, that we start to think of it as corporate citizenship, to where as individuals and the companies and our products and all of it go out into the regular space, whether it's like you said, think about the impacts, if you, not just from the car sharing, but local transportation that go beyond just your people getting from the factory to the office and to their homes and the rest, but it's actually the impact that you could have on the local community as a whole. It's exciting on that side, and I appreciate your passion. I can see it. Maybe this is the first time you and I have had this conversation, but I can see the passion in it, and that you're into the details, which as a CEO of a large organization, just doing this takes a lot of time away from other things that you need to do. But then to be in those details, it could tell me that it's an aspect of who you are, and it's an aspect of who is in the organization itself. And that to me probably matters more than the plans that are there, because it gives people the permission in the company to think about these things in the daily way that they work, which is not lost on me. And I wanted to highlight that and tell you I appreciate that approach.
Ligo, you know that you have been successful on giving this global approach to the whole company. When a guy from the finance department, from the admin department, comes and say, "Hey, why don't we print on the invoice a short sentence giving advice on how to give end of life, what you do when the end of life of the product, how to for the instructions for disposal at the end of the. So in that initiative, that coming from an admin guy, that's when you say, hey,
from finance, that's pretty good. Yeah,
that's pretty good. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. I appreciate. Colin, do you have any?
I mean, I've just had a blast hearing the passion as well. You know, as Lee can attest to, I'm pretty passionate about this as well. Having a whole month dedicating these podcasts to it. You know, one of the things that I would like to hear more on, though, because I've appreciated some of your unique outlook on sustainability, Javier. But you talked about something that Lee and I have mentioned a few times, which is the life cycle of a lock, right? And mechanically, locks can last forever and ever and ever. But what is Salto's approach as it relates to, you know, ever advancing software and firmware and new functions and features, and making sure that our mechanical product doesn't become obsolete? How do you manage that as part of kind of this sustainability efforts? And what are your thoughts on keeping hardware relevant as software expands and grows?
You correct me if I'm wrong, Colin. You are also an expert on the Salto products, but I don't think we have a single product which could come end of life because there is no software supporting it. I don't think we have. I would be very worried if one day we have a product which cannot be used because we don't provide the software to support it. So on that dilemma, I hope we will never have that discussion, because I hope we will never have such a product. So yes, end of life and how to dispose the product. Then you know that we pay to some country bodies in order to help us for the product disposal. So, for example, take a customer that today, now we are 20 years old, and we are starting to think that some of the products that we first installed. Look, when we started the company, we thought that the life cycle of an electronic lock was 10, 12 years. Okay, so today is the day that our first installs, which are logically 20 years old, they have not been replaced yet. So that's good and bad. So it's good for the planet and bad for the P&L. But no worries, it will come. It will come. So those customers, our first customers logically were those in our area in Spain, around us, universities, hotels, etc. And those customers which now will replace the product for a new generation product, they can either send the product to us, and we will take care of that disposal with the company that we have an agreement that they will do all the recycling. So a customer could send us the product, and we will take care of that on the recycling with this company. The customer can also be offered themselves. They send themselves the product to this company that we have the agreement and we pay for. Or there are also recycling units all over the country. And when I say Spain, I say the same in some other European countries. There are recycling bodies, recycling units, recycling plants where we have agreements with in order to recycle the product. So we work on that very much in both extremes, on not leaving anybody with a piece of hardware without a supporting software. And then when it comes end of life because of time, as I say, 20 years now perhaps, then supporting and helping our customers in order to do a proper green disposal of the product.
Yeah, definitely down into the supply chain, like you said, but then also into the partnership side of giving people the opportunity to make the easy choice, if you would, to be able to dispose it properly versus making it hard. And that seems to be one of the areas that over time you've seen that, you know, if we make it easy, people will pick that route to go do it because they fundamentally want to see, you know, the planet get better in that regard versus doing
and that's something that more and more it is being taken into account by customers. So on the EPD, on the environmental product declaration, there is one of the chapters is please tell me how you have organized the disposal of your products. And then you have to give a description of all the measures you have taken in order to use that. And more, when we go to a tender, more and more, not only public tenders, but also private tenders from private universities or public or private universities or public bodies. When there is a tender, more and more all the interest and the evaluation that a company is given, the products of the company are given, all these aspects not only are good because of we really think that it's what we have to do, but also it pays back all the investments which are around these efforts.
Yeah, we're seeing it too, and RFPs and that come through for commercial projects. It's in there as a specification that you have to qualify and meet to.
Absolutely.
As well as, and that's where it kind of goes together. It also makes me believe that, and what it sounds like you've done in some cases, there's like a good partnership opportunity here between private and public partnerships to make all this stuff happen with recycling companies and whatnot. You don't have to do it all yourself. So there's an opportunity to do it, but it comes back to the fundamental side that I can tell with you is A, the passion's there, B, you want to do it, and you've made it a sort of a fabric of the organization as a whole, that we're going to go do this. Let's make it everybody's opportunity to participate. So thank you. Now, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you got a lot going on. I appreciate you spending it and having a conversation.
I love this topic, so I love the conversation.
Right, I can see it, and I like it. But I wanted to actually just shift gears just a second, and I wanted to end it with somewhat of a personal touch, because it's having somebody like yourself on here who's been highly successful within our industry and really has changed. We talk a lot about the evolution of the industry, and as someone who appreciates the past, you change, whether it's the design, the electronic side of what you've done, you've made an impact, which is impressive. So for people that are watching this, like, who or what do you attribute that success to? So as like, when you look back at it, what do you think caused that? Was it, the team? Was it you? Was it the idea? Was it like, what has created this great success that Salto is?
Well, I would say, of course, it's not me. It was the passion. It's the passion of very highly skilled people. So we have within the company there is a person which, from a technological point of view, gave us basically 99% of the success comes from this person, which is a sort of a guru, technological guru, which is called Juan Medio. He's working on electronic locks. Lee, you are also an industry veteran, and this person developed one of the first mag stripes electronic lock back in 1972. So just imagine. So this person is today with us. He's also one of the co-founders. And from the technological point of view, I would say Juan Medio. He's one of the factors of our great success. Then I would say Salto was in the right moment, in the right place. So why the right moment? Because back 2000, there was the boom of electronic locking in the hospitality industry, and Salto was the first company without having a link with the mortise lock manufacturer, without being the evolution of a mortise lock manufacturers, as most of our competitors are, the evolution of a mechanical lock manufacturer, which then either created a company or acquired the company and went into the electronic locking. So Salto was the very first project in the world without having a link on the mortise lock, being completely focused on the electronic lock and leading this transition from mechanical to electronic. So I would say apart from this individual, I would say we were in the right moment, and then the passion of a highly skilled team. I can say very proudly, I can say that the management team we have today is exactly the same as it was 20 years ago. So for the good and the bad, some people would say, okay, but then how do you get some fresh air? how do we get some fresh air? By trying to interact with everybody. But it gives a stability to the company, a long-term view, because now we are in the budgeting process, in budgeting times. We are taking decisions which will impact perhaps in 3-4 years. And that's okay for us, because we were there 4 years ago, we were 8 years ago, 16 years ago, and we will be there in 4 years' time. So the passion and also the alignment of all the management team, as I say, for the good and the bad.
No, absolutely, and I'm in the process of actually documenting the history of access control. So hearing about Juan, that's I'm going to reach out to you again on that to make a connection if you could, because we found that like 1972, 1973 is really the birth of when electronic access control happened. So that's interesting to hear. And then the other part that I like the idea, you're leveraging when it first came out, you were allowed the opportunity because you didn't have the past, if you would. You were able to start fresh to go do that. It makes me feel like figuring out what's interesting though, as a 20-year-old company now, that mindset that of knowing that the roots and the success started with the idea that you'd had a fresh, clean sheet of paper, if you would, and you leverage that to do. It's interesting to me to think about, okay, as a 20-year-old company, how do you get that same spark so you don't become the company that Salto disrupted on that end? So allowing that to happen. The good news is, like you said, the leadership team is there so you can remember that and tell the stories. And that's where I think it's the magical part of our industry. We're a very tenured industry that has talent, but how do you celebrate the past and recognize what got us to where we're at, but then not let that get in the way of the innovation to happen, and so leveraging it and balancing the tenure and talent together. So, because what's next, I don't know. But I'm interested. Maybe we'll do this 20 years from now, and you and I could sit back and laugh about, back in 2020 when, that's a year to really sit back and laugh about, but it'd be crazy. But to think about it, is like sort of these inflection points that have created whatever the industry looks like next. Will be fun to do, and I look forward to doing that.
Yeah, that's true. No, and the company, there has been an evolution logically. When we created the company year 2000, the R&D team was basically formed by mechanical guys, mechanical engineers, trying to design all the components and trying to make our lock, which is not a lock, is a trim, let's say, work with any mortise lock in the world. Okay, and also the R&D guy, you would open the door in the R&D department and it would be all kind of mechanical stuff in the table, and a few guys over there doing some electronics, some firmware and the software. Today, when you visit our R&D department, there are young, fresh guys preparing apps and APIs. Everything goes cloud, and then we are more the asset is much more light than it was before. So now we have software developers, app developers, and then the whole thing has balance. And the core competences of the company also have switched parallel to what the market is demanding.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you all were early on the software side of this, and we saw whether it was back from Clay and the rest of it. It's you can see that you've done that a lot. So, well, Javier, thank you very much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. You have no idea. So thank you for doing it. I appreciate your approach. I look forward to at some point when we can travel, I'll come visit, and I'd love to see that R&D department, and we can maybe do this in person. That would be wonderful. Okay, it's a promise now. I take your word. All right, we'll take you up on that. So thank you.
Thank you, Javier.
I really appreciate it.
Appreciate the thoughts.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.